Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
This is my face after I've been told I have 10 minutes to live. I was a fake missile alert in Hawaii.
Yes.
I was there. My assistant Linda called me. She was crying. She said, we have 10 minutes left. She said, the missiles are coming.
I remember this. They sent out an emergency text to everybody.
And it was completely real to us. Tried to get off the island of my daughter. I couldn't get off the island. I sat on the lanai and looked out at the ocean. At that point, I started going, okay, well, what can I do at this last moment of time? And I just decided to go through a list of gratitudes, and honest to God, I could not stop thinking of wonderful things that have happened to me. And it was a surprise that I actually slipped into this place of gratitude. It was lovely, and I got to a point of grace, but about 2 minutes to spare when I found out it wasn't actually happening. It's a weird thing to walk around the world knowing how you'll be in the last 10 minutes of your life.
And what did you do when you find out that it was a fake missile test?
Then I got pissed off and heads rolled.
I'm sure a lot of you were already aware of this because it's clearly old news, but this was the first that I heard of Jim Carrey being there during the Hawaii missile scare. That's absolutely crazy. I can't imagine what it must have been like for people in those 10 minutes. I wonder if there's a book or something with a compilation of stories of people's experiences during that 10 minutes. That would be a good read.
Every one of you who has a phone in their hand should have a deep think about why they don't have removable batteries anymore. They tell us it's for better water resistance or to make your phone slimmer, but do you really believe that? Back then, you could just pop that sucker out, slap in your backup battery, and boom, you were back at 100. No power banks and no waiting around. They've made sure you can't ever do that again. Others say it's all about money, right? Because they want us to buy a new phone. But think about it, wouldn't they make more money selling backup batteries? The truth? The battery was the only thing you could control. Once you take away your ability to remove the battery, you can never really turn your phone off. Even if you hit that power button, it's still listening. How else do you think your phone switched itself on for the alarm? They needed a way to make sure we couldn't just cut the power. You pop that battery out, boom, no more tracking. So what do? They take away the option. An airplane mode? Yeah, that's a joke. That's like trusting incognito mode to keep you safe from the CIA. And here's the kicker. This was always the plan from the start. Once they figured we weren't catching on, they went all in on non-removable batteries. It's the perfect system. And here's where it gets really freaky. Every phone company, and I mean every single one, made this change at the same time without exception. Think about that for a second. Not a single mainstream phone manufacturer lets you just pop out the battery anymore. None of them. It's like they all got the same memo at the same time. And the craziest part? Nobody questioned it. We just accepted it. Like sheep, we went along with the idea that it's just the next step in technology. Phones are getting better. Now, I'm not saying toss your phone out, but next time you stare deep into that camera lens, ask yourself, who's really on the other end? I'm going to go ahead and say this is just a joke for entertainment purposes.
Maybe a removable battery is a feature we should get Elon to put in the Tesla phones when he finally releases it. I think that's likely the only way we'll end up with a high-end phone with a removable battery. I guess your only option if you want some privacy is to just leave your phone at the house whenever you leave. I do that all the time by accident. Now I can claim that it's not due to age and poor memory. I'm just trying to keep the government from tracking me. Hey, if you're enjoying this video and you like this type of content, I post a new one just like it every day, Monday through Friday. It'd be awesome if you'd hit that subscribe button and come back tomorrow to join me. Also, don't forget to check out my merch store at www.barry-stepp.com.
13 is not unlucky, they made you scared. Jesus has 12 disciples, he is the 13th. 1 + 3 is 4. You have a fourfold nature, a mind, spirit, emotion, and body. This is why he has 4 gospels. Mark shows Jesus as a spiritual teacher. John shows Jesus as an emotional creature, water into wine. Matthew shows Jesus as a mental body, where he's intellectual and communicative. And Luke shows Jesus as a human being, where he does physical things for other people. 13 represents human consciousness. They have demonized it. That's why the word sacred is scared rearranged. They made you scared of all the sacred symbols. Water is emotion, air is the mind, earth is the body, and fire is the spirit. The Bible is filled with metaphors, cryptograms, astrological codes, and numerological codes. Jesus never existed. He represents you. He represents God made flesh. You are an extension of God's consciousness. Watch this YouTube video to find out.
Now, I don't agree with that stuff there at the end, but I thought it was interesting that he was saying that 13 is not a bad number and that we're being manipulated into thinking that it's unlucky. I have 13 letters in my full name, and I've always treated 13 as my lucky number. I'm not a big believer in luck, but I've always treated that as my lucky number, and I've always seemed to have good luck around that number. I just thought that was interesting. And them demonizing the number that represents Jesus and his 12 apostles, who, in my opinion, did exist, makes total sense. Everything around the name Jesus seems to get demonized at some point or another.
All of this food was destroyed after a raid at one Oxford Street candy shop because they were caught selling over 600 products deemed to be unsafe. Things like American cereal and fizzy drinks containing banned or excessive additives were seized, as well as chocolate that didn't have labels in English, preventing customers from checking ingredients, sell-by dates, or even allergen information. In the last 3 months, trading standards destroyed over 2,000 unregulated products from the same shop, and back in February they even found carcinogenic American sweets being sold there. The seized products, which are valued at over £2,800, have since been incinerated, with the business having to cover the costs for the destruction. Westminster Council say there'll be more raids on shops in the coming weeks.
Just think about how bad our food is if other countries confiscate and destroy it. That's insane. Something has got to be done about the chemicals in our food supply. Personally, I just hope that we get RFK Jr. in a position to start making some improvements soon. He's the only guy here talking about wanting to make changes.
Solomon says that God answered his prayer and sent an angel down with a ring to give him a ring, and that ring gave him power over the spiritual world. And Solomon uses it in what seems to be an attempt to help humanity. He claims that he used the authority of the ring to summon all the principalities of the world, the Nephilim, that are these disembodied spirits going around causing all this illness and different things. And he does several things. He interviews them as to what they hate, what casts them out, and like what angel is over them, that they, if that angel comes, they'll flee. Michael or Raphael or whatever, right? He writes all this stuff down, and this becomes witchcraft. For instance, one of the demons told him, I was in the land of Persia or whatever, but I left because someone was cooking fish. A fish gallbladder burning over an open fire drives me nuts. It's like putrid to me because I'm a water-based demon, and something like we don't smell burning things underwater, and so seeing it in the open air just makes me want to vomit, and so I left. Solomon's like, that's interesting information. I'm going to write that down. So if you want to repel a water demon, burn the gallbladder of a fish over an open fire in the month of June on a full moon or whatever. And that became a spell, which is where witchcraft comes from. Does that make sense?
It does.
The pentagram they use in their prayer circles is an homage to the Ring of Solomon. Solomon called it a prayer circle. He used to use the names of God, Adonai, and different powerful names of God to keep the demons from getting to him while he's not playing these games with them, interviewing them. He would summon them, milk them for information, forcing them to comply with the ring, and then basically saying, okay, you go over here. He would enslave them to build the temple of God. That's why they think all these rocks, the pyramids and stuff were built by these types of things. And so the Masons come out of this as well. One of the highest ranking demons that Solomon enslaves to be a worker in the temple, he makes him a stone cutter and a mason, which is where the Masonic order seems to come with this demonic. Does that make sense? It's like all tied together. So Solomon summons all these guys, writes down a list of everything they hate based on starts to categorize and map out the spiritual world for the sake of humanity being able to control them. Because at this point, these things are running around tormenting the world. Solomon's trying to get a hold of it. So he's basically the sorcerer supreme, if you think of it like that. But he realizes that you can enslave the entire spiritual world if you get their bosses. They have to follow. And now you've cleared the world of demons, and guess what he trapped them in?
What?
A brass vessel, a lamp. This is where the legend of genies comes from. It's also the idea of Pandora's box. All the evil of the world trapped in one little bitty vessel, right? He throws it into the lake, drowning them. The world prospers. His kingdom prospers. Everything's good. No evil, no wars, no nothing. Humanity, hearing the legends of this, start trying to dive the sea to figure out how to get this lamp back up so they can release these things so that they can manifest. This is like literally manifestation. That's why it's so dark and deep. Very ancient roots to these things. They want stuff. These things have power, and while they were horrible and tormenting us, they also gave us what we wanted if we worshiped them, right? So they opened Pandora's box. Solomon's still in control because of the ring. But at this time, and this is where Balaam comes back in, guess what they did to trip up Solomon? They sent a woman to cause him to fornicate, who forced him as a literal prerequisite to sleeping with him, you have to worship my foreign god. They always try to get God to punish us through our sin because they can't curse us because of the authority we have in Christ. So they released Pandora's box. Solomon's still in control, but now he's being tempted to, if you want to marry the queen, I think it was the Queen of Sheba, you have to worship Moloch. So he sacrifices to Moloch, and he said the second he did it, he said, I immediately felt the Spirit of God depart from me. He said, as I continued to do it, I felt it completely abandon me, and I became the sport of the demons I once controlled. Spent the rest of his life tormented by demons and giving into all these different things. Now that God wasn't protecting him, he became a master of witchcraft to try to force these things to not be able to. He tried to take it into his. It's like, God's abandoned me. They're going to kill me. They're going to ruin my life. I have to figure. And so he comes up with all these spells he wrote. I remember so and so said he hates gallbladders, and so he started, get me 3 gallbladders of this, and he basically became a sorcerer in order to ward off the demonic world, which is now at his doorstep. And this is the birth of witchcraft. Solomon really perfected the art of the modern occult through his desperation to ward off the spiritual world after God left to abandon him.
That was fascinating, but I just can't help but wonder if all these spirits were so prevalent back then, so prevalent in fact that you probably had no choice but to believe because you would see them from time to time and interact with them. Where did they all go? What happened to them? Why don't we see them all the time now? Why is the only thing we're left with is just the stories about them that sound like fairy tales?
On October 4th of 2024, a man sits down with his girlfriend to watch a horror movie with her. He has already seen the movie himself and knows she'll react in a funny way to it, so he decides to record her reaction while she watches for the first time. Now, they also just moved into this house, which is right next to a cemetery, not to mention they have a creepy collection of clown dolls and other strange things. So while watching the movie, this happens. The clown doll on the wall suddenly moves right after the exorcist's face appears on the screen, instantly catching the boyfriend's attention and creeping him out. Many viewers told them that by watching these type of paranormal films, you can unknowingly open a portal to your house. But the couple remains unconvinced and believes it has something to do with the cemetery itself. And it could be right because the very next night, she decides to show the cemetery to her viewers while asking for advice, when something utterly terrifying is captured. Watch closely.
Part 2 of my scary clown video. Okay, so I thought I'd show you that I do live across the road from a cemetery. Normally this stuff doesn't scare me, but the clown kind of did. But I find it's a very peaceful, restful place. I've walked in here a few times. I've been here about a week. Yeah. So, I don't know, maybe I need some sage, because the scary clown is kind of scary, and I'd rather not have that happen again. So, any tips and advice would be great. Thank you.
Right after she mentions needing sage, a dark shadow figure can be seen moving behind one of the headstones, before disappearing. They are planning to use sage to cleanse the house. But as we have seen previously, sometimes that makes things worse.
I can't explain away the shadow figure unless it's just some person standing out there knowing that they're filming, but I genuinely think the clown moving has a simple explanation. The thing was propped into a specific pose on the wall, and the couch she was sitting on was touching the wall. When she moved on the couch, it just unlodged this doll from the position it had been in and made it move. What are y'all's thoughts?
This guy in North Carolina, he was leasing this giant warehouse, and FEMA had no place to put all their stuff. So he's like, you can use part of my warehouse.
Voluntarily opens it up to them.
Being a rad guy.
And so what they also put in there was pallets worth of prime drink, and apparently there's some ingredient that is not approved through FEMA. And then they went to the guy and said, since you had this in your warehouse, you no longer have a lease. We are apprehending your warehouse. And so he's kicked out of his own place for offering it. They put the prime in there, and they said, can't have that in there.
They did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Dude, this is sounding like William Wallace, prima nocta, medieval English garbage.
Prima nocta.
That's my warehouse, and I shall take her.
This is crazy.
You may take our warehouses. You may take our land. But you will never take our freedom!
You may take our prime.
You may take our prime.
Dude.
But as you're lying in your beds as an old age, would you not trade all of that?
All of those tomorrows.
For one chance for your freedom!
I'm sorry about the ending there. I hated to cut off the branding in case one of y'all wanted to check out the full-length episode. I remember reacting to a video from this guy whenever this happened. I knew they threw him out of his own building, but I didn't know that this was their justification for doing so. The more I hear about FEMA, the more I'm convinced they need to be dismantled entirely.
So we got green lasers, we got running water. What about solar and lunar light?
Whenever you apply quartz to a power spot, whether it's in nature or it's on the human body, you're going to amplify the energy there. Gold is understood to be literally, not metaphorically, a crystallization of the energy field emanation from the sun. Silver is the literal crystallization of the energy emanation of the moon. They found that virtually every biological pathogen would be killed by silver. And they show you over a period of a few months them regrowing the entire finger.
No way.
Absolutely.
Does anyone know what podcast this is from and what episode? If that's true of quartz, then that adds a lot to the theory of the pyramids being massive energy generators. I want to hear more about them growing fingers, though. And honestly, I want to know what he's talking about with the sunlight being gold and moonlight being silver. If someone can put me onto the actual episode that all this is on, I can cut this up into smaller segments and we can discuss all these topics on the channel.
Right, when I said I was going to report on anything new, I didn't think it was going to be 2 minutes after I finished my live. I've actually had to cancel my meeting to discuss this because this is a big deal. Daily Mail, of all people. And I was just talking about them as well. How random is this? Anyway, Kirkpatrick. What is going on here? Okay, so Pentagon UFO chief reveals US military's new alien tech crash retrieval program. The Pentagon's former chief UFO investigator has revealed a sensitive new government program to recover alleged alien tech in the event of a shootdown. Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, a longtime CIA scientist who headed the US military's UFO chasing all-domain anomaly resolution office, admitted to the program's existence when pressed during a new interview. The retrieval program's protocols were for any UAP recovery involving everything from balloons to drones to alleged alien tech, as Dr. Kirkpatrick told podcast host John Michael Gaudier. In recent years, Pentagon brass, NASA, experts, and academics have all reframed what were once called flying saucers as unidentified anomalous phenomenon. The revelation is the first time that the US government has officially acknowledged a UAP or UFO retrieval program, despite decades of speculation and whistleblower testimony that America has already been in possession of alien craft for decades. Am I reading this right? Kirkpatrick is coming forward with what is going on here? What? Okay, wait. It also comes amid multiple federal investigations into motherships UFO over key US military sites, releasing hard to identify, much less catch drone swarms, Langley, UFOs. This week, the Pentagon's North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, admitted that America's military installations have been plagued since 2022 by at least 600 so-called drone incursions, many still unexplained. Classified documents suggest that the new UFO crash retrieval program began in early 2023 with a focus on response and recovery and material transfer. Dr. Kirkpatrick initiated high-level meetings formalizing Arrow's version of a UFO crash retrieval program in January and February of 2023, according to the redacted documents released last September via the US Freedom of Information Act, FOIA. As one scheduling email explained, the purpose of the meeting is to discuss the disposition of funding within the context of safety and security implications of UAP, establishing a receiving point of any and all recovered UFO materials was one key issue to be addressed, the meeting memo added. What? This seems... What? How is he... I'm so confused by this. Is this real? Well, it's from Daily Mail. I mean, the problem is those types of activities are already covered under foreign material collection and analysis, as Dr. Kirkpatrick told Gaudier and listeners to his event Horizon podcast Thursday. There's already a process and procedure. There's already a process and procedures in place for many of these things, he continued. So this conversation was really to start. How do we document that for UAP? And what kind of procedures do we need to put in place? And it's got all the redacted files here. It's got some like released files with, you know, with the black ink on. Wow. Okay. Dr. Kirkpatrick's latest disclosure adds context to an intriguing release of 78 pages worth of redacted plans between Arrow and the US Space Command, where the physicists had previously served as Deputy Director of Intelligence from 2019 to 2021. Space Command was only just one of the branches Arrow consulted. Leadership from the White House Joint Chiefs of Staff also weighed in on the UFO recovery effort, including its Directorates for Intelligence, J2, Operations J3, Strategy and Policy J5. This is a lot to take. Wow, Jesus. I mean, talk about spur of the moment. Like Kirkpatrick? He came forward with this? I'm so confused. This is... all right, guys, I'm going to need you guys to go to work on this. This is literally fresh off the plate. This came out 19 hours ago. I'm only seeing it now. The date today is the 1st of November. I've just done a video, but I think this is way bigger than the one I've just talked about. I mean, this is admittance that they've got a program. Do you know what I think this is to do with? I think this is because the hearing is going ahead on the 13th and Immaculate Constellation is going to be mentioned. So he's come forwards with this information so he doesn't get done in on the 13th of November.
That's exactly what I thought, was that this was only coming out because of the hearings coming up on November 13th. And they're already giving us lies. They're saying this retrieval program didn't start until 2023? Yeah, right. They've been openly talking about UFOs in Congress longer than that. There's no way they just started a program for retrieval unless it's just a new one. And the one that we all want answers on is going to get kept secret, and they're just going to discuss this crap. It's going to be no new information, just like it always is. But guys and gals, I'm going to go ahead and end the video right there. Don't forget to get out and vote before you do anything else today. Get out and vote. I hope you enjoyed these clips we watched together today. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. I hope you come back to join me. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to check out www.barry-stepp.com if you'd like to order yourself a shirt or a hat or a hoodie. Also, don't forget to post your photo of your merch over in the Discord to get your photo in a video. But with all that out of the way, I hope everyone has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow.